Welcome to our Spring 2024 Coach Kickoff webinar, where we'll do a little bit of training, but ultimately it's the big kickoff to our Lawns to Legumes grant season, which we're very excited about. We're going to go ahead and just give you a few housekeeping updates. First of all, we are recording today's session, so if you could just keep your microphones on mute, that would be great. We'll have a little bit of Q&A time at the end, and at that point you can come off your mic and talk, but otherwise we'll just keep those muted for the presentation today. And then I know it's a lunch hour. If you're eating or just want to keep your camera off, camera on, camera off, totally up to you. Nothing to worry about there. As you do have questions throughout the presentation, though, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll be monitoring that as we go along, and then we'll save some time at the end to address any of those questions. We're just going to go ahead and get started. I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Alexandra Zerzan. I am the Lawns to Legumes and Special Projects Manager here at Metro Blooms. I'm also the primary coaching contact for the Lawns to Legumes season. So really excited to see you all here today. I'll hand it over to Megan.
Hello, my name is Megan. I am the Communications and Program Manager at Metro Blooms. I help a lot with program admin, grantee support, and communications. And I will pass it to Erin.
Good afternoon. My name is Erin Leffler, and I work for the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources. I also wear a few different hats here. I am a St. Louis County Master Gardener, so that's exciting. I've been doing that officially, I think, for 2 years. I am also a coach. So shout out to all those Master Gardeners out there that have signed up to be coaches. It's a great opportunity, and it's really rewarding. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much. Really excited to have both of them here to present with us today. I'm just going to take a quick minute to kind of outline some of the key program players for Lawns to Legumes. So the Lawns to Legumes program is a program of the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources, and they have contracted with us for the past couple of years, Blue Thumb, to help implement the individual support grants for the program. And then Blue Thumb is the education and statewide outreach arm of Metro Blooms, which is a nonprofit here in South Minneapolis. So when you see all of these names on our program information, just know that we're all on the same team working together on this program. I'm going to hand it back over to Erin to do a little bit of program background and get us started. Oh, and Erin, it looks like you're muted.
Muting. Yes, I'm Erin Leffler. I am co-leading this effort with Dan Shaw. So if you saw previous recordings, he and I are working on this together. The Lawns to Legumes program had started back in 2019. It's really exciting that we are now on our 7th cohort. So this will be the 7th group of individuals receiving this individual support grant. More exciting news that this appropriation that funded this program used to come from the LCCMR funding source, and now it has gone to general fund. So that's really exciting for us that it's just for the next 2 years, we'll be in the allocation with our general fund, and it will go through 2027. Yeah, so part of the components of the Lawns to Legumes program, I kind of look at it as like a three-legged stool. So we have this public outreach campaign, and it's really to build a movement. And so that has gone through some of our DIY projects. I mean, this program has been so successful that through the course of that, since 2020 or 2019, we've had like almost 30,000 applications submitted through this program, and of which there's been like 6,200 applications being funded, and about over 4,000 projects that have been implemented throughout the state. So that's really, really exciting and encouraging, and much of that success of this program really comes down to the folks like you that are in this virtual room right now that have signed up to be coaches to really help mentor some of these beginning gardeners to do this great conservation work. So that's really exciting. We have 270-ish coaches, and they represent about 49 counties throughout the state. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing to help us with the success of this project. The pollinator, so again, it's kind of a three-legged stool. Public outreach and education campaign is one of it. And then we also have what I am leading is what we're coining the Pollinator Pathways Grant Project. And so that's about $1 million in appropriation that we are going to be putting out a competitive RFP for. And so that's hopefully going to be hitting the Board of Water and Soil Resources Board at the end of March, I'm hopeful. And so that'll be open for about 2 to 3 months. And that's what that program really is designed to have a community-based applications so that we can do bigger, more, I shouldn't say more robust projects, but the minimum requirement is going to be set at like $25,000 for ask for that. So I think about it as I live in Duluth, Minnesota, and I'm a master gardener, thinking about the community groups that I work with through that master gardener program, and really thinking about, developing a grant program that can really build momentum with pollinator conservation and maybe even get into classrooms too. And so I encourage you as you're out there coaching, thinking about the different groups that you work with, that maybe this would be an opportunity for your groups to apply for. If so, you can always contact me and we can brainstorm ideas. And then again, that third leg of the stool would be the individual support grants that we've had so much success with and why you're here today. And part of the Lost Legumes, there's 4 different project types. And so many of you here today or may not have a lot of experience, and we're going to go through a lot of that, all the technical resources that are available for you to coach your grantees through. But there's mainly 4 different projects. So this pocket planting are these smaller projects, but within that there's different types of pocket planting. So that could be shoreline planting, that could be your rain gardens, and also really interesting and innovative, I think, is the concept of raised bed gardening. So let's say you're a vegetable gardener or were and don't want to do vegetables anymore. This would be a great opportunity to convert that bed into, say, a native planting. Or if you're, say, in downtown Ely and maybe don't have any place to actually put this planting in place, we could do container gardens as well. So it's really exciting and different types of projects that you can be doing. Again, there's the pollinator lawns that you can implement, native trees and shrubs, which are a very important pollinator, especially from my perspective, being up in St. Louis County. Those are a good source for the pollen, a good habitat actually for many things. And then the pollinator meadows. So those are going to be your bigger projects that may not be suited for real urban spaces, but maybe it's something that's larger that you would be using seed instead of plugs. So there's different types of pollinator projects that you can choose from, and lots of resources help you coach your grantees through the process.
All right, so I'm just gonna jump in here and kind of go through some of the agreements that our grantees agree to when they take on one of these projects. So they confirm their grant once they receive it to let us know that they are still interested in participating in the program, and then they agree to maintain the project for at least 3 years. Use locally adapted or local origin native vegetation. We have a few exceptions that we'll kind of go over a little bit, but they're all outlined in our eligible expenses guide, excuse me. And then when they're planting a project, especially those pollinator meadows and native pollinator pocket plantings, we ask that grantees think about including 3 blooming species for each season. Grantees agree to protect their projects from pesticides, submit before and after images of their projects, and as long with itemized receipts detailing the native species that they purchased and planted. They agree to map their project so we can ultimately see where all of these completed projects are going in across the state. And then they agree to submit documentation of a match, which this year we had a little bit of a change to this. And so the minimum match requirement is just at least 2 hours of time spent on the project. And the webinars that grantees attend count for that time. So it's really, really easy for them to meet these requirements. The other really exciting thing that I want to point out for this spring is that we were able to increase the grant amount from $350 to $400. So all of our grant recipients will be eligible for a $400 reimbursement. And then a quick look at the timeline for this spring. We announced grantees really early this year, which was really exciting. Back on December 15th, we awarded 3,000 grantees, and I believe we've had over 2,000 of them already accept, which is really, really exciting. They will have their first kickoff webinar next week on January 18th. And then following that, we will have a grantee Q&A webinar, which is a little bit of a different setup too. This is just because we know we get so many questions in that first webinar. They'll have a chance to have kind of more direct conversation with program staff, talking about those questions, have a full hour to address some of that. By February 9th, we're hoping to have grantees match with coaches, and then we just ask that when you receive that assignment, you reach out to your grantees within about 2 weeks so that they know that you're available. And then we'll be hosting workshops for grantees really through the month of February and March. We'll have some lawns to legumes specific workshops available. And then we have our regular workshop season that all grantees are invited to attend if they feel like it will help benefit them. Those registration fees are reimbursable through their grant as well, so they'll have a chance to attend additional workshops with some of our designers through the whole grant season, really. And then in mid-April, we'll be scheduling a mid-season coach check-in. We've done this the last couple of cohorts, and it's been a really great time to meet together with you all again and have a chance to just have a conversation about how the grant season is going. And then the project deadline for this spring is July 15th. So all reimbursement requests are due at that time, and grant projects need to be in the ground by then. So now we'll go ahead and get into kind of the nitty-gritty on coaching and what your role is and what resources are available to you as we go through this grant period. One of the things that we really like to emphasize is, our project support team is larger than just the 3 presenters that you've seen on the screen today, but it's not huge. It's a pretty small team that's working to implement this grant. And so we really, really appreciate all of the help and support that you provide in giving that human connection to our grantees throughout the grant process. So in your role as a coach, we really just ask that you provide that extra support and kind of show up as a cheerleader for your grantees so that they feel like they can be successful, and kind of turn their nervous excitement and energy into a successful project in the ground. The other great thing about you as coaches is that you all have, when you signed up, kind of demonstrated that you have knowledge and experience working with native plants, and that sharing those personal experiences with our grantees can be so important in helping them realize that this is a journey that they can start on and a project that they'll be able to do because somebody before them has come in and done it successfully. Being a coach obviously requires a bit of a time commitment. So we ask that when you sign up for the spring cohort, that you just kind of have an awareness of being available for your grantee through the entire duration of the grant period. I will say most of the communication with your grantees gets centered around, specific times, especially right at the beginning when they're planning their projects, and maybe a check-in thereafter. But knowing that you're available and you're not just gonna disappear on them is really important to us. That being said, we 100% understand that life happens, situations arise, and you feel like you don't have the capacity to work with your grantees anymore. That's okay. We just ask that you reach out to us and let us know so that we can get your grantees reassigned or otherwise just provide that additional support that they need. The other thing is that we ask of our coaches, and it's really not even an ask, we know that you're going to do it, but we just hope that you can show up as a kind and patient teacher for your grantees. You don't need to know all of the answers. You don't need to have all of the answers. We're here to support you in those situations in which you feel like you're out of your depth and you need to know a little bit more. But the really, really important thing for our grantees is just knowing that they have someone in their corner, helps them feel less overwhelmed as they kind of start on this project, and it helps them realize too that gardening with native plants is a journey where you're not just growing the plants, like we're all growing in our knowledge together. And so they don't need to know everything right at once. You don't need to know everything right at once. We can work together to make these projects a reality. We've got a ton of resources that we've created and that are hosted on our website for grantees, all to look at throughout your time working through this grant season. But one of the things I always direct coaches to is our coaching handbook. It gives a really great overview of the program, as well as kind of what to expect as a coach and what resources are available to you. If you know of other helpful resources that you have used in the past yourself, or maybe shared with grantees in previous cohorts, feel free to share those and use those as well. And then if either you or your grantee throughout the process end up having questions, you can always contact staff either through the helpline, which is our email address listed there, through the Hive, which is our online community, or otherwise you can just get directly in contact with me, and I'm happy to help get you the support that you need. So knowing now what your role as a coach is, that's super important. But the other thing I want you to know is kind of what expectations we set for our grantees. First and foremost, we tell all of our grantees to only expect to meet with their coaches virtually. The reason that we do this, one, this program was kind of born in the middle of the pandemic, and that was a requirement that we had, that everyone be able to meet virtually. And we found that that's actually been a really useful option for many people, just with scheduling conflicts and where we can end up matching grantees. It's just a really, really useful tool. So you may end up getting matched with a grantee who is your next door neighbor and you want to meet with them in person. That is totally fine. We just want to make sure that we leave that kind of in your hands to decide if you're comfortable doing that and communicating with your grantee about that. The other thing that we kind of set up grantee expectations for is that their coach will reach out to them first. So when we assign grantees, we always we provide the grantee contact information to you as coaches and not coach information to grantees. This is just to kind of give you some space to prepare, and then also set some boundaries in terms of what's going to be the best way to communicate with your grantee and when are the best times to do that. So you'll receive their contact information. We just ask that you reach out within kind of about 2 weeks to let them know what to expect and how to get in contact with you and kind of set up that first introductory meeting. This year, we received a lot of feedback in our survey that there were unresponsive grantees who just never ended up replying to your emails. And in the hopes of fixing some of that, we are making a couple of changes. So one of those changes is we're waiting to ask grantees to request a coach until after they have attended the program information webinar next week. That's really in the hopes of, setting up their expectations, giving them the knowledge of really what this project is going to entail for them and what kind of support that they'll need. Hopefully they'll have a better idea on whether or not they're going to need to use a coach. And then the other thing is that when we are emailing out grantee assignments to you as coaches, we'll also be emailing those same grantees to let them know you have been matched with a coach and you should expect to hear from them in the next couple of weeks. All of that being said, if you still have trouble getting in contact with your grantees, it's really helpful for us to hear that. So you can email us at the helpline and let us know, and we can try and figure out some other ways to get in contact with them and let them know that there's somebody out there ready to help them. The time commitment for coaching is, we generally hear from coaches around 2 to 3 hours per grantee. So when we're talking with grantees about what this looks like, we generally tell them you might have one longer meeting earlier on when you're doing kind of these introductions and the planning of the project. And then that's where the bulk of the time often gets spent. And then otherwise you might have a couple of chances throughout the grant program process to check in with your coach. But our biggest kind of point on that time is really that we know that you are all volunteers, and we want to make sure our grantees understand that as well. If you end up having a grantee who needs more help than you feel like you can give, or you have the capacity for as a coach, we just ask you to direct them to either the helpline or to the Hive community, and we're happy to step in and direct them to additional resources that we have available. So in this process of doing these kind of coaching virtually, we feel like we've really gotten a good handle on how we can do these virtual site visits and consultations. We hear from coaches all the time that the in-person consultations and site visits are the best, and fully understand and support that. If you feel like you want to do that and have the capacity to do that, that's fantastic. But you might be matched with a grantee who lives 4 hours away, and that's just not feasible for you to do. So I just want to let you know about some of the tools that we have available for doing these consultations with grantees. You can use Zoom and other video conferencing platforms like Google Meet, things like that, to meet with your grantees and talk with them. Share your screen so that you can look at some pictures of their site. You can look at county GIS property maps, are a really great way to get an idea of what their property looks like, as well as Google Maps images. But the other really great tool that is available on these platforms is the Annotate tool. When you're sharing your screen, you can pull up like a pen feature and start drawing into areas where, important information, things like where water is flowing across their property, or where they already have a garden sited and where you're thinking another garden site might be available to them. All of this, I know, just in kind of talking through it, doesn't make a lot of sense. So we do have a video available that Megan just posted in the chat. It's linked in our coaching handbook, so you can always refer back to that if this is something that you're maybe unfamiliar with. The other thing that we encourage grantees to do before these virtual site visits is to kind of do their own site assessment beforehand. It's a really great way just for them to get a handle on, what their property looks like and what challenges they might be facing. And we have a lot of really good information on how to do those site assessments in our online Resilient Yards learning content. So we direct grantees there, and feel free to just encourage those grantees to come prepared to their first meeting with you.
All right, so I'm now going to cover just some additional project guidance and resource reminders. We have a lot of this material all available on the Blue Thumb website on the grantee guide, and you can always refer back to this recording as well. But just going back to the mission of Lawns to Legumes, we're really hoping that through everyone's projects, we can all work to benefit at-risk pollinators, and that includes the monarch butterfly and the rusty patch bumblebee in particular, but also many other native pollinator species that could use more habitat and support. So that being said, the focus of plantings should be on benefiting pollinators. I do want to note one other change to our eligible expenses guide is that we did used to have a requirement for the percentage of funds that had to be spent on native plants. There is no longer a percentage requirement. However, we are looking for projects that are used for the primary purpose of creating native pollinator habitat. And if it's clear that that wasn't the purpose, then we wouldn't be offering reimbursement. So there are lots of plant lists available for preferred plant species on the Blue Thumb website on our resources page. Those are great to share with your grantees, and we have plant lists for shady sites, sunny sites, specifically for benefiting the rusty patch bumblebee. So we encourage you to look there if there's something that your grantee is particularly wanting to focus on. Another good goal to have in mind is planting a mix of at least 3 blooming species. So native plants that bloom in the early spring season, in the summer, as well as through fall to help ensure that continuous availability of food for our pollinators. Like a lot of our native bees can be active from early on in the year all the way to late fall, and often that early and late side of the season is when we see a few more gaps in available habitat and food resources. And also keeping in mind that some pollinators like the monarch butterfly require specific species, in this case milkweeds, to host their larvae. So something you could talk to your grantee about is if they're interested in helping out a certain species and then looking into what plants would specifically help them, kind of helps make the project more fun and more focused on what the grantee's specific interests are. The next slide. One thing important to note is that we are not able to reimburse cultivar species. We're only available to reimburse native plants. And so it's really important that grantees understand how to shop for native plants and understand the difference between what a cultivar label looks like versus what a native plant label looks like. We do have a handout on that provides some help and guidance on the grantee guide on our website. So I encourage you taking a look at that and sharing that with your grantees. There are, however, a few exceptions of cultivars that we do reimburse either because of their high value to pollinators or just because of their availability in the market. And those include service berries, hawthorns, black chokeberry, and then some of our species that are found in alternative seed mixes. And you can see the full list of that on our eligible expenses guide, which is also on the grantee guide of the Blue Thumb website. Next slide. We also have a number of design templates for different types of gardens on the Blue Thumb website. So that is another great resource that you can direct your grantee to during the planning stages of their project. Another resource that was developed specifically for Lawns to Legumes grantees is the Board of Water and Soil Resources Planning for Pollinators Habitat Guide. And that is linked on the website as well. And it goes through the 4 project types in detail and includes plant lists associated with different projects. So if you're not familiar with that resource, I also recommend checking it out and just browsing everything that we have available. I also want to mention that most all of these resources are PDFs, so you are welcome to download them, print them, distribute them. They're meant to be used and seen by as many people as possible. Next slide. We do have a couple other neat tools on the Blue Thumb website. The Plant Finder is specifically for people who are trying to find native plants that are suited to their different project site conditions. We're currently actually updating the Plant Finder. We've added a lot of new plants and search filters. It's still in progress, but if you want to take a peek and even offer feedback on it, you can check it out there. The update will be complete in March or around when planting season is really in full swing. So that is another great resource to recommend. Next slide. And then one more resource that I want to highlight is our native plants, nurseries, and retailers list. So this is also on the website on both the grantee guide and the resources page. And it includes a list of reputable native plant retailers from around the state. You are and your grantees are not limited to shopping from these nurseries by any means. But these are ones that we've been in contact with and have a lot of native plants available and staff that are knowledgeable in the Lawns to Legumes program who can help out your grantees. And so we also have other ways you can search in that document for what your grantees needs are. So for example, there's a number of retailers that offer online ordering and delivery. So even though we recommend that your grantees try to source their native plants from as close as possible, sometimes depending on their region, that's a bit tougher. So there are a number of retailers that they can get delivery services from, and delivery can be reimbursed under the Lawns to Legumes grants. So again, if your grantee is not sure where to shop, this is a great resource to send over to them. Next slide.
And then I'll just jump in here to plug again our online learning series available on our website. We have the Resilient Yards, Alternative Turf, Resilient Shorelines, and then also Winter Seed Sowing online series available. These are really excellent. They kind of mirror some of our workshops that we offer as well, and end up being a really great tool for people to go back to and reference over and over again. So the way to access this is to go to our website under the events tab. There's a little form there to sign up for access to this content. Highly encourage you to take a look at it and direct grantees to it. It's a really great resource that we're excited for people to be able to use. Another tool that we have available for grantees is the Hive. This is basically our closed social media platform for our grantees to connect with each other. As they confirm and accept their grant, we add grantees into the cohort specific to them. So there's a spring 2024 cohort already up and going. Grantees can interact here with each other. They love to post pictures, let us know how their projects are going, ask each other questions, ask where people are getting their plants from, and just generally building this community while these projects are going on. So we as staff are regularly in the Hive as well, answering questions that come up, but we will also be giving access to coaches to join in on those conversations and take a look at the Hive. If you are wanting to crowdsource other information, or you find a really great resource that you would love to share more widely just beyond the grantees you're working with, we would love to see your participation in there. So definitely check it out. We also have a coach-specific community, the Coaches Hive. This one is much smaller. Obviously, there are like 200 of you, and there are 2,000 of our grantees. So this one sees a little bit less use. But for our coaches who especially are newer, we have a lot of coaches who are past grantees who have successfully put in a project, but maybe haven't been gardening for a super long time and still have questions. This is a really great place to go and ask each other for some support. The other thing too is that I jump into this space and will answer any questions that you have. So definitely feel free to use this and build community throughout the grant period. I know we've covered a lot of information today. We're finally getting to the end here. This is just, one final plug to say, if you want to refer back to this, we have this recording. will be shared with you via email, will be posted on our website, and then all of this information we cover in our coach's handbook, which is available on the website. And I know Megan has already posted in the chat. So feel free to reference this. If you have any questions going along through the grant period, start here first. And if it's not there, reach out to us and let us know. We'll be happy to answer those questions and then know that we need to add that to the handbook moving forward. So as we're finally at the end here, I hope that you're feeling more and more excited about this spring grant period. I hope that you're feeling excited about working as a coach and working with grantees. I know I'm really pumped to get that started this spring already, this winter even. So a couple of next steps for you. If you haven't already filled out the Google form confirming your participation for this spring, I would really, really appreciate you doing that. We'll go ahead and put that in the chat here in just a moment. But this is just gives you a chance to tell me for sure you have the capacity to work with us this spring. Lets us know if you've had any geographic changes on where you're wanting to work, as well as how many grantees you have capacity for. So at the beginning of every grant period, I send out this additional form just asking to reconfirm, and that's the list that I end up matching with people. So important for you to get that one done. The next thing too, just want to encourage you all to spread the word to fellow native plant enthusiasts that you meet or in community meetings, things like that. We would love to have more coaches join us and know how fun this process is and how great it is to be encouraging other Minnesotans to start thinking about working with native plants. So please feel free to share this opportunity in whatever circles you are running in that you feel like it would be relevant. And I just want to also say too that if you are coaching in a capacity as a member of an organization that requires volunteer hours for this kind of work, so Master Gardeners, Minnesota Water Stewards, Master Naturalists, any others that I may have missed, these hours that you spend working with grantees do count. So you can feel free to record those throughout the grant period and report those back to your organizations. If you have any questions about that, reach out to me through our helpline or the L2L coaching email that's listed there.